Next time and then I'll put it out.
I got you. This man's got a lot.
Alright, those problems from yesterday. Listen up here. When we took the square root, they worked out nice in terms of like you took the square root, you got a nice number. Like square root of 25 is 5, or square root of 49 was 7. Doesn't always work out that way, so we need to take a look at a case that isn't as nice. All right, so let's take a look at this one here. You got right above you, you got those directions. All right, so what's number 1 say, Zane, on your guided notes? What does it say up above there?
Collect variable terms on one side of the equation and constants from the other.
All right, what in the heck does that mean? I think sometimes we write things and we have no idea what they mean. Constants has no x with it. Do we have the constant on the other side? Yeah, you isolate it. And anything with an x you keep on the same side. As needed, number 2, divide both sides by a. Well, what is a? A is what's in front of x squared, because we always talk about ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Is there a number in front of the x squared? No, so this is good. We'll get to that. But we don't want to get there too quick. So number 2, you really don't even need to do anything, because we got to make the x squared term of 1. All right, number 3, this is that big step. This is completing the square. This is where we do x squared plus 2x. We put in a blank here. We put in a blank here. And then we're going to fill in that blank. And this is where we do this, complete the square by adding b over 2 squared. B is this number here. We take that divided by 2 and we square it. That divided by 2 and we square it. Well, be careful here. 2 divided by 2 is 1. What is 1 squared? Yeah, good. Make sure it's a 1. A lot of times you just have a tendency to want to make it a 2. It's going to be a 1. Okay, so we got x squared plus 2x plus 1, right? What does that factor into? Okay, what does that factor into? That's what 2 numbers multiply. And some of you take the extra step, which is fine. And I got, that becomes x plus 1 times x plus 1. Because 1 times 1 is 1, and adds together you get 2, and then I can make that x plus 1 squared. So as long as you're okay with that, jump down and make this x plus 1 squared equals 19. All right. Now, this is where we take the square root of both sides. Sam, what's the square root of 19?
4.35.
All right. Okay. We don't know what it is like in our head. You can't figure that out exactly. But we're going to take the square root. X plus 1 squared equals plus or minus square root of 19. Well, when I take square root of 19, I get that. Oh, 4.35. We got to teach you how to round. 4.36. Okay. We're going to round to the nearest hundred. So, all right. Now, for a second here, keep it as it is for 1 second. Don't do anything. Go ahead and make this x plus 1 equals plus or minus square root of 19. And we know it's not a whole number. So it's not a whole number. We got to be careful. Now, get the x by itself. What do I have to do to get the x by itself?
Or subtract 1.
Subtract 1. And now I always like to put that in front of the plus or minus. So you got x equals negative 1 plus or minus square root of 19. All right, what does it say at the bottom of your paper? Or at the bottom of that page? It has radical, and then it has what? Decimal. You're going to have to write this both 2 ways. So right now, here's what I want you to do. The radical answer is just going to be x equals negative 1 plus or minus square root of 19. Put that down. exactly as it is. It has to be -1 plus or minus square root of 19. All right, now it does say, what's the decimal answer? Here's where you go to your calculator, you hit the square root of 19, and we go ahead and write down that it is plus or minus 4.36. We're gonna go to the nearest hundredth. Well, what are my two answers? My two answers are -1 plus 4.36, which is 3.36, and my other answer is -1 minus 4.36, and that is -5.36. So under decimal, you're going to put x equals, and I'm going to switch the order. I'm never going to mark off, but technically you're supposed to go from smallest to biggest, so I'm going to just switch the order, -5.36, and then 3.36 for that. So now we got another layer. If it doesn't come out to be a nice whole number, we got to write the radical answer, we got to write the decimal answer. Okay, for that. That's for those who are. All right, now take a look at that second one. There's one thing we got to do for this second one. Before I do anything, and we haven't, it hadn't come up yet, but what do I got to do? That
Add 18 both sides.
Yep, you got to get that 18 over to the other side. You got to get that 18 over to the other side. And I get x squared plus 3x equals 18. And now I'm going to get x squared plus 3x plus, put in a blank, equals 18 plus a blank. Oh, okay. Now, think about what you put in that blank. What do we got to do? This is where you got to be able to follow those rules from yesterday. Colin.
2.25.
He says 2.25. Okay, that's what it's going to end up equaling, because whatever this b value is, we cut it in half and we square it. Now I'm going to take an extra step here. So I'm going to take 3 divided by 2. It doesn't come out. Everything to this point has been a whole number, always. Now it's not. It's a decimal. It's okay. Then we take 1.5 and we square it, and we get 2.25. So I get x squared plus 3x plus 2.25 equals, what's 18, or 18 plus 2.25? What's that?
20.
Yeah, 20.25. I'll put that on the next one. What does this factor into? Now, this is a hard one. It factors into x plus something squared. And this is always going to work out to be the same number, a specific number here. Is that
1.5.
He says 1.5. Okay, here's what happens. As long as we do this right, whatever this number is divided by 2, okay, this is always going to go here. And even on all the other ones, that's actually how it works. Because actually, let me go backwards. Because when you cut 2 in half, it's a 1. So it becomes x plus 1. And all our other ones, that's what happens. So it's a little difficult. Think about that. 1.5 times 1.5 is 2.25. 1.5 times 1.5. It's 2.25, and 1.5 plus 1.5 is 3. Okay. Now, 20.25 on the other side. All right. What do we do from here? That
Find the square root of 20.25.
Yep, we're gonna square root both sides. Now check your calculator, and if it comes out to a nice number, we don't need to do the radical and the decimal. So take square root of 20.25. And then see what it comes out to, right? What did you get?
4.5.
This is 4.5. That's a nice number. We're gonna go with that, 4.5. So square root equals plus or minus square root of 20.25. And so this becomes x plus 1.5 equals plus or minus 4.5. All right, subtract the 1.5 over, find your two answers. And now on the bottom, you see where it just says answer, that means I'm kind of giving you a guide that you don't have to do a radical and a decimal. So x equals negative 1.5 plus or minus 4.5. So your answer, what's negative 1.5 plus 4.5? That's 3, right?
Yes.
Negative 1.5 minus 4.5.
-6.
How about that? They come out to be nice numbers. Even though our work is a little bit crappy, we did add some decimals in there, we ended up with nice numbers in the end. First time we ended up not getting a nice number, okay, but it worked out. All right, flip it over on the back. I think we're already on the back. Okay, this is the first time where we put a number in front of the x squared. Jordan?
Do we divide everything by 3?
We're going to divide everything by 3. So whenever this happens, you cannot do this method if there's a number in front. So go ahead and divide everything by 3, and then you get x squared minus 8x equals 9. So it worked out okay. Now we proceed as normal. We got the constant over on the other side. We don't have a number for the x squared. Now we go through the steps. All right, now what are the steps? This is where we put in a blank here. We put in a space here to fill in. And what goes there is you take half of whatever the number constant here is, and we square it, and that gives me x squared minus 8x. All right, now how does this work out? What's negative 8 divided by 2? Is it a whole number? Yeah, it's negative 4, and don't forget, negative 4 squared is always going to be positive 16. This is always going to be a plus here when we're done. All right, go ahead, and if you think you're good, work forward. If you want to wait and go with me, that's fine, but see what you come up with here moving forward.
Yeah. I didn't know well. Probably about 3-4 days. You see this on there, that's one of the problems with the mistake. Yeah.
Nine, negative 1. Alright, any ideas what that factors into? No? You alright? Okay, two numbers of 1 plus
Say five.
and what?
Your numbers.
What you usually go to for all the numbers, four, what actually you get, so that's gonna factor in x minus 4 point. We always get something like this. So like that, so that's gonna be x minus
It's really good, it's
4.
just that b divided by two, that number.
Sam, did you get a couple answers? What'd you get?
I got 9 negative 9 plus 16.
Good. Alright, so if you're stuck, x minus 4 times x minus 4, which becomes x minus 4 squared equals 25. Now I'm running out of room here, someone go over here.
You should have subtracted here.
Okay. I end up with x minus 4 equals plus or minus 5 there. Because square root of 25 is 5, add 4 to the other side. And so I get x equals 4 plus or minus 5. Now 4 plus 5 is 9. 4 minus 5 is negative 1. And you can switch the order. But so this works out nicely. I kind of gave you a clue because at the bottom it says just put an answer. And I know I left you a ton of room. But that gives you an answer that everything works out good. Now, if you take a look at that number 4, I'm not going to start it yet, but what does it say at the bottom? It says radical and decimal. That means it's not going to work out nice. It's going to be like, I think, the first one we did. So don't get too far ahead of me here on that one. Because we also got a couple other things we have to watch. It says solve by completing the square. Okay, so when they give you us the directions, we got to follow those. Two things we got to watch. We got a number in front of x squared, and what else do we have to be careful about? Okay. We were missing the, yep, Allie said this number needs to be over on the other side. You can do either one, and it doesn't matter which order, but let's go ahead and move the 42 over. So move the 42 over to the other side. And when you move it over to the other side, you subtract it. So I'm just going to put equals negative 42. All right. Can I have an x squared? What do I need to divide by, Morgan? What do you think?
Divide by negative 2.
Good. Divide each piece by negative 2. Negative 2, negative 2, negative 2. When I do that, that changes all my signs. It becomes x squared plus 2x. And I know what's going to happen, so I'm going to put a space here. And I get 21 plus, and we'll put a spot here. Take half of 2. Half of 2 is what? 1. Square it, and I still get back 1. Now I'm going to go through, and I'm going to write it out, but I get 2 over 2 squared, 2 over 2 squared, and I end up with x squared plus 2x plus 1 equals 21 plus 1. This will factor into x plus 1 squared equals 22. Okay, now this is where we take the square root. And this is where some of you are kind of skipping some steps. You need to make sure you show this because it will end up causing mistakes down the road. All right, check and see if the square root of 22 is a whole number. If it's not, then don't do anything just yet. We'll come back to that. Don't do anything yet. So it's not a whole number. So here's what we're going to do. I want to get this x by itself. So I'm just going to write this as x plus 1 equals plus or minus square root of 22. We're going to leave that. Subtract 1. And write x equals -1 plus or minus square root of 22. Down on the bottom below that problem where it says radical, put that as your radical answer. Okay? Because it has the square root in it. And we're going to put x equals -1 plus or minus square root of 22. So that's your radical answer. Now it also says decimal. So now is where we take the square root of 21, or excuse me, square root of 22, and we round it off to the nearest hundredth, which is 2 decimal places. So what does that become? Second square root of 22, 4.69. So now you got the two cases, and you can put them over down at the bottom here if you want to right away. So what is -1 plus 4.69? I get positive 3.69, and then I get -1 minus that. And I get -5. All right, so I kind of give you the key clue to how that's going to work. You're going to end up with a radical and a decimal. So I give you both answer blanks. All right, I want you to get started here so we can give you a little bit of help. Hold on here, I'll keep that up. Okay, 7. Actually, let me make it 8 through 10. And then 23, 30, and 32. Keep your notes out. 8, 10, and 32 will have radical and decimal answers. List them both. The others will not. Don't worry about 7.
I can't see the 649.
649.
This is number 7.
I really can't read that.
Okay, you need to be done with 8 through 10, 8, 9, and 10 before you get out of here. That's your goal. So we can help you get done with 8, 9, and 10. I don't know where it works. I don't either. I don't either.
What?